Welcome to the City of Bakersfield Planning Commission meeting. This television broadcast is brought to you by the local cable companies, the County of Kern, and the City of Bakersfield. You can watch the rebroadcast of this meeting Saturday at 7 p.m. and Sunday at 10 a.m. The agenda for this meeting can be downloaded at www.bakersfieldcity.us. Presiding over this evening's meeting, Chair Zach Bashir-Tosh.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to call to order the March 21st, 2024 Planning Commission meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chair Bashir-Tosh.
Here.
Vice Chair Cater.
Here.
Commissioner Biddle. Commissioner Kaur.
Here.
Commissioner Coleman.
Here.
Commissioner Neal. Commissioner Strickland.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. Salute and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In keeping with the City Council's new resolution, public statements are now received at different times depending on the item. I will call on Madam Clerk to call for public statements at the appropriate time, so please listen carefully for the correct time to speak. Does anyone in the audience wish to address the Commission regarding items listed on tonight's agenda? If you are here for non-consent public hearing item 6A, now is not the time to speak. You will be given an opportunity to speak at a later time. Does anyone in the audience wish to address the Commission regarding items not listed on tonight's agenda? If so, please come forward and state your name. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 4, consent calendar items.
All matters listed under the consent items do not require a public hearing and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of said items unless staff or commissioners request specific items be discussed and/or removed for separate action. May I get a motion approving consent item 4A?
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Strickland, thank you.
I'll second.
Commissioner Coleman, thank you. Commissioners, please cast your votes.
Motion passes with Commissioner Biddle and Commissioner Neal absent.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 5, consent public hearings.
Now is the time for consent public hearing items. If the item is not removed by commissioner, staff, or member of the public, the commission will vote on all items in one motion without further comment. If an item is removed, it will be placed at the end of the non-consent public hearing items. At this time, I will now open all of the consent public hearing items. Does any member of the public wish to remove a consent public hearing item? Does any commissioner or staff wish to remove a consent public hearing item? At this time, the consent public hearing items not removed are now closed. May I get a motion to adopt staff's recommendation on the consent public hearing items not removed, incorporating all staff memoranda and revised staff recommendations?
I'll make a recommendation to approve item 5A.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Kaur. Please cast your votes.
Motion passes with Commissioner Biddle and Commissioner Neal absent.
Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 6, non-consent public hearing items.
Now is the time for non-consent public hearing items. Before we begin, I want to explain how the hearing will be conducted. Staff will first give a report, then those in favor of the project will be allowed to speak. Those in opposition to the project will be able to speak after all of those in favor have spoken. Each side will be given 5 minutes to provide rebuttal comments. Individual speakers may ask questions during their statements, but the questions will not be answered until the public hearing on that item is closed. Written comments may be given to the clerk, who will provide copies to the commission. Please be respectful of others participating in the hearing by not repeating the remarks of previous speakers and presenting any new comments or thoughts in a concise and clear way. Mr. Johnson, would you please provide us with your staff report?
Before the hearing begins, I'd like to note that I have a conflict of interest due to source of income and will be in the back room.
Hanging out.
Recusing yourself.
Recusing myself.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Yes, thank you. I know the City Attorney's Office is escorting Commissioner Cater out, but in the meantime, we're going to have Veronica Martinez. She's one of our planners. She's going to come and present this project. And Ms. Martinez, if we could wait until the attorney's back.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Veronica Martinez, and I'm an assistant planner in the planning division for the City of Bakersfield. Item 6A is a request to approve a plan development review located on the southwest corner of Hosking Avenue and Hughes Lane. This is a request to allow the development of a 25,060 square foot physical fitness center. The overall project was approved by the Planning Commission in August 2019 to allow the development of a 122,500 square feet commercial center consisting of 6 multi-tenant buildings, a convenience store with fuel, a fast food restaurant, and a 3-story 110-room hotel. The current proposal modifies the original proposal to include a 1-story physical fitness center in place of the originally proposed 3-story hotel, and a slight shift of the proposed Building 5 to the south. Public notification for the project was mailed to all property owners within 300 feet and published in the local newspaper. No comments were received. Staff finds the project is consistent with the zoning, land use, and surrounding developments. Staff recommends approval with conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation of the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to add a little context to why this project's being considered. As Ms. Martinez noted, we don't have any opposition to the project, but one of our development standards is that when there's a wall, and in this case, we're looking at the southern wall facing the residential neighborhood. If that wall is over 100 feet, we require some type of articulation on there. And in this case, you have approximately just over 200 feet on that top portion of this wall that we feel needs some articulation. And so we have a condition, should your commission approve this project, that these plans, elevations be modified for the south side of the building. So that's the reason this is on the regular agenda, to allow the applicant also an opportunity to comment on that condition that we have.
Thank you for that. The public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the project? Please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and then proceed. Seeing none, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the project? Please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and then proceed. Does any commissioner have any questions for the public on this item? Remember, this is not a time to express any opinions on the matter. It is only a time to ask questions. I think that was from Cater earlier. I'm going to remove that. Commissioner Coman.
Thank you, Chairman Bashir Tash. This question is for staff. Is this the same project that had the creek run through it?
It did have a canal running through it, yes.
Okay, and that's been mitigated now?
They have rerouted the canal.
Okay. Maybe you can help me just understand some of the notes. Let me find that note. I'm sorry, I was at it and I moved on. This has to do with the parking. There's a statement in here that per the city's parking standards for a development of this nature, the minimum required parking for this development is 443 spaces. As proposed, a total of 468 spaces would be provided. It should be noted that the number of off-street parking spaces shall not exceed 150% of the minimum requirement for commercial use. The development will provide a surplus of parking consistent with municipal code and would be subject to a shared parking agreement. Can you talk about that shared parking agreement?
Because there's multi-buildings on this site, the applicant may subdivide the parcel if it has not been subdivided already, and this would allow him to sell off certain parcels, such as, in this instance, maybe Planet Fitness wants to own their own parcel. Because of the parking and the access that makes this a cohesive center, we would need a shared agreement, so that way Planet Fitness, in this case, would be able to allow others to park and access through their property.
So does that involve the properties on both sides of Hughes?
It would, yes. It's all one project.
So they would get credit for parking that is on the other side of the street?
That's correct.
And that doesn't cause any problem for staff?
It does not cause a problem for staff. We believe each side of the road is parked sufficiently enough.
Okay. And is there, I'm sorry, I don't have the map here in front of me. Is there adequate crossing safeguards for that? Right there on Hughes? I know we're pretty close to the intersection there at Hoskins.
I would have to look and see where the crossings are. I mean, obviously, we don't want a crossing mid-street. So for sure, there's one at the intersection.
Okay.
I would have to look at the site plan.
All right.
If you give me a moment.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
We
But
can move
we
on.
would not want a crosswalk mid-street unless there was some type of pedestrian traffic control there.
I'm just concerned that you have a Planet Fitness and they'll draw, pretty good crowd at early in the morning and or late in the afternoon, that there might be some overflow parking that then it needs to occur across the street, and that you'd have people crossing that street at high traffic times.
We can look into that, but generally, when we've looked at the plan, there's sufficient parking for the fitness center on the west side of Hughes Lane.
Okay.
But that wouldn't prevent somebody from parking, going to the gym, and then maybe wanting to go over to, maybe there's a fitness store selling drinks on the east side of the road. But we can look into that to make sure there's adequate pedestrian safety.
All right, I won't belabor that point too much more. And I just wanted to clarify, it says staff is recommending option 2. And that's the condition. I'm looking back. Can you read to me what condition 2 is?
Basically, condition 2 states that the plans will be revised and resubmitted back to the planning director for review to make sure it meets development standards. I do note that the owner of the site is in the audience, and if he doesn't object, which appears he hasn't, then he'd be fine with revising those elevations to make sure it does meet development standards.
All right, and my last question is landscape plan. This falls under the newest landscape ordinances, or was this grandfathered in?
No, when something like this comes forward, then we would look at making sure it adheres to the current landscape standards.
Thank you, that's all my questions.
We don't need to move into rebuttal, huh?
If there's any other questions, then we can just move on. Yeah, we don't have a rebuttal. It'll
Okay.
just be closing.
I will now close the public hearing on the item and return to commission for comment and also action. Does any commissioner wish to make a comment at this time or make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve as staff recommended.
Thank you, Commissioner Carr. Do you have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Strickland. Commissioners, please cast your votes.
Motion passes with Commissioner Biddle and Commissioner Neal absent and Vice Chair Cater recusing.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 7, communications.
Does any staff have any communications at this moment for us?
Yeah, first, I'd like to thank the planning commissioners for attending the academy. I think it was a worthwhile trip, and I hope that everyone received a lot out of it, and we appreciate the time that we got to spend together. We are having some issues with the system that we're under right now. It's called Novus, with our staff reports and how the system gets through with voting and everything. So just know that we will be making a change coming up. So you're going to see a change to the template of the reports and a few other things, but there will be some training on that as we get closer, probably within another 30 to 60 days. And then lastly, we will have a meeting on April 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 8, commission comments.
Does any commissioner have any comments at this time? Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 9, adjournment.
This meeting is adjourned at 5:46, March 21st, 2024. Thank you so much for coming.